scriptingisfun.com. Today we're going to be adding in an alien spaceship that's going to show up randomly throughout the level and try to approach and shoot our player. So the player's goal will be to avoid that enemy and destroy it before it can shoot him. So that will be our goal for today. Let's get started. So the first thing we need is an alien spaceship. So I went to a site called Millionth Vector. I'll put the description in the, or I'll put a link in the description below. And there's some free spaceship sprites there that we can use. And I got this alien spaceship here, and I brought in all his sprites. This is an animated sprite, so it's got 15 different frames of animation here, mainly just shading and coloring the spaceship in different ways. So we're going to bring him in here, right? So we'll make him animate as well. So for now I'm going to grab the very first sprite in the series here, and we'll drag that out into the scene to see how big it is. And there it is. I'm going to zoom in on it here a little bit. So he's a little bit small. Let's make him bigger. So one of the things that we can do when we bring a sprite in to make it bigger is we can go in here to the inspector. I want to make sure texture type is set to sprite, and we can tell it pixels per unit. This tells it how many pixels to pack into one unit of Unity space. Right now it's at 100. So if we make this number smaller, our sprite will actually get bigger. So let's take it down to a 50 and hit apply here, and let's just see what happens. So now he's about twice as big. I think I might want him even a little bit bigger. Let's try 25. Yes, let's try that. So we're basically telling Unity, hey, the sprite spread 25 pixels in the sprite across one Unity unit. And that gives us a nice sized UFO here to fly around out in the scene. Now we're going to have to do this to all of our sprites that we brought in. This one we've already done, but I'm going to go ahead and click the next one, and then I'm going to shift click on the very last one so they're all selected, and I should be able to change them all at the same time. So over here in pixels per unit, let's go ahead and set that to 25 and hit apply, and they should all now be 25. So I'm just clicking a few of them here at random. Yes. So that changed them all to the same size. So when we go to do the animation here, it won't be changing sizes on us. Alright, so we've got our UFO out here. We can go ahead and just get the animation working here first if we like. What you're going to need to do is get your animation window. I usually keep it docked right down here. But if you don't have the animation window, you can go up to your window menu bar and just find animation. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to click on our alien out here. Let's change his name. We'll just call him Alien. And let's see, once we click on him, then down in our animation panel we have this create button. So let's go ahead and create an animation. We'll give it a name, Alien Animation. So it's for our alien. We'll hit save. Now we can tell it where to save it. Right now it's saving it in my sprites folder where I have the alien spaceship, so we'll leave it there for now. If we're going to have lots of animations, we make an animation folder. Well, let's hit save. Now this gives us our timeline, and this is really easy. What I can do here is I can click my first frame. These are all in order the way I want them to play. This is going to be a frame by frame animation, and I'll shift click the last one. So I've got all 15 of these selected, and then I'm just going to drag them down into the timeline and drop them. And what will happen is Unity will make a keyframe for each one. So if I hit play right here, you'll see what he's doing up here in the scene. This is the animation that's playing right now. It looks like there's a bit of a wobbly look and kind of this line going around the bottom. If we want this animation to play slower, we can go to the samples here, and I can just change the 60. This is how many frames per second that this animation is running. So 60 frames per second is a lot of frames. So if we take this down to, let's say, 15 for instance, and I click off of there, you'll see how it has now spread this out. Here's where the second ends, over here. It spread this out over a whole second's worth of time. So if I hit play now, you'll see it takes a whole second for him to play his entire loop. Now that might be slower than we want. We can decide, but you can always adjust this number. I could go to 20 frames per second. That's going to jam it down a little tighter, and now he's playing like that. And I think I might like that a little bit better. So I think we'll stick with 20 frames per second. That's his animation. Alright, so let's stop that. Now let's go up to our alien out here, and you notice that it's got a sprite render. It's got a sprite here. It's also got the animator. Okay, and the reason this is red right now is because I'm still in record mode. See down here my animation panel, the record button is there. So if I actually go in here and move anything, it's going to think that's an animation I'm trying to build. You can also see the red buttons up here. The play buttons are red. That means it's in record mode. So you just want to click that button off. And if it's on and we go off the animation panel, it sometimes still sticks. So go ahead and turn that off. And then we won't be messing up our animation here by moving things around. So on our alien, when we added the animation, we got an animator. And it made us a default animator controller here as well. So we have, it's a little confusing, we have a couple of windows here for animation. We have an animation window where we can actually build animations. And then we have an animator component that has its own window. This is the animator window right here. And this is an animation controller. So this allows us to tell the alien to switch between different animation modes. So maybe have an animation for moving and idling and shooting or whatever. In this, we're just going to keep it simple. We're just going to have this one animation. Notice that it's got the name Alien Animation. It's got a motion clip. This is my animation clip called Alien Animation. That's the one I just made right here, which is the one that we built down here. All right. This is, if it's yellow or orange here, I guess that's orange. This is the default layer state. Okay, so this is the default. It's automatically going to play this. This is, if I click on the animation file here in the inspector, you'll see that it's looped. So this is a looped animation. It's just going to keep playing. So matter of fact, if I hit play here and we watch it, you'll see how he's playing his animation. He's just going to keep playing it. So our little alien is going to keep playing that animation all the time that it is existing out in our scene. Okay, so we've got our alien sprite. We've given them just a quick and easy animation. So the next thing we want to do is get him moving around. And we want him to move generally in the direction of the player. And I think what the original Asteroids game did with its little alien spaceships is at the first level, the alien spaceship wasn't as accurate. It wasn't very accurate with shooting. Maybe didn't move as fast. Maybe it wasn't as good at getting closer to the player. But as each level increased and this alien spaceship came back out, they got better. So we'll see if we can implement some of that in our example here as well. For now though, we want him to move, and we want him to move towards the player, generally in that way. So our alien here is going to need some more components. We're going to go ahead and give him a rigid body. So physics 2D, rigid body 2D. We'll open that up here. We want to make sure that our gravity scale is 0. And since we've been using auto mass and all these other objects to kind of get a comparative mass here, let's go ahead and use auto mass here. And that will calculate how massive this is by the size that it takes up in our scene. So that's all we should need there from the rigid body, a 2D rigid body on our alien, so that he can move. He's also going to need a collider. He's going to not be able to pass through things, and also have to know when he's been hit by one of our bullets here. And we might even make it so he can run into an asteroid maybe. So if we hit an asteroid, you know, then he'll try to avoid it, but maybe he'll crash into it and die. That could be interesting. So let's give him a collider. So physics 2D, and he's the circle, so let's give him a circle collider. And if you zoom in here, you'll notice that that collider is matching his outlines pretty nicely. I always find it looks a little better during gameplay if we pull that in just slightly from his edges. So let's pull that in a bit so that there's a little bit of overlap that will occur with things, so the player really can see that there was indeed a collision there. And we'll just leave this as a regular collider. It's not going to be a trigger because we want it to block movement through things. Alright, we've got all that in place, so he should be set up to get a script and start moving him around. So let's do that. Let's go to our scripts folder here, and I'm going to right click, I'm going to create a new C# script, and we'll call this alien script. And we'll go ahead and drag that to our alien, and we'll make sure you got it. Yep, there it is right there. So I'm going to collapse the circle collider and the rigid body for now. Could even collapse the animator, we don't need that anymore, just to make ourselves some room so we can see what's going on over here in the inspector. So let's open up this alien script in MonoDevelop. And here it is. Alright, so first thing we want to do is get this alien to move, and we want it to get him to move in the direction of the player. Now, we're going to try moving him with his rigid body, and since he's a circle and he doesn't really have a front, we don't have to worry about actually turning him angle-wise necessarily. We'll see what happens as we go in here and build this. So we're going to need to have a fixed update function. So let's do void fixed update. Fixed update is just like the update function, except fixed update runs on a fixed time interval. And whenever you're moving things using rigid bodies in the physics system, you want to do that in your fixed update. Update runs on frame rate, so these will not run in sync with each other. Alright, this is the best place to put physics things. So in fixed update, what we want to do is move the rigid body of our spaceship. So to do that, we actually have to have a link to our spaceship. So let's go up here to under our public class here for our variables go, and let's make a public rigid body 2D. We'll just call it RB as we normally do. And we're going to assign that out in the inspector to the rigid body of our little alien spaceship. And then in our fixed update, we can move our rigid body. We're also going to need a public vector2, which we'll call direction, which is going to be used to control the direction that we want to move our alien spaceship. So we're going to figure out which direction he should move, and then we're going to move him in that direction. And we're probably going to want some way to get some speed here to control how fast he moves. So let's do a public float, and we'll call this speed as well. Alright, so the first thing we need to do before we move our spaceship is to figure out which direction, this vector2, he should move. So in our fixed update function, we're going to figure that out, and then we're going to move in that direction. What we need to do is we need to figure out which way the player is from our spaceship. So for instance, if I go to my spaceship here and I move him down here a little bit, and I go to my UFO here and I move him over here a bit. Alright, so the way we do that is we take the position of where we want to go, so the player's position, which right now he's basically a -3 on the X and a +3 on the Y. And then we subtract from that the position that we currently are. So this guy, our UFO alien, is at a -3 on the X roughly. Our player is roughly a -3 on the X, so you're going to get a 0. We're going to subtract that from there. Okay? Because a -3 minus a -3 is a 0. Alright, on the Y, where we want to go is Y3 roughly, but the alien is at Y8. So the position we want to go to, 3 minus 8 gives me a -5, which means that I want him to move in a -y direction. So this is all part of vector math, which is what Unity uses to move all the stuff around. It can be a bit complicated, but that's basically what we're going to do. So out here in the fixed update, every frame we're going to have to get a read on where the player is, or every fixed update cycle we're going to get a read on where the player is, and then we're going to do that math to figure out where to go. So to figure that out, we actually need to have a link to the player. So that's going to be another variable up here. Let's get a public, we can just get a transform here because we just want the position of the player. We'll call this our player. So we're going to assign this. We could do this with code, or we could do this out in the inspector, because my plans for this alien spaceship is that we're never going to actually destroy him. We're just going to move him off to the side and turn him off when he's not supposed to be doing anything. So we could just drag him in out there. If we were going to be spawning these in, then we would need to do this through the code instead. So I will show you how to do it with the code here, just so that you know if you're going to try to spawn in multiples of these. So basically, it's kind of like we did with the asteroids finding the game manager or the player. We're just going to say that player equals, and we'll do a game object dot find. And I know the player has a tag attached to him, so I'm going to use find with tag. And then the tag that I'm going to use is the capital P player tag. So I know that's the tag that he has. So that makes it pretty easy. So right away at the beginning, when the game starts, our alien is going to go out and get himself a link to the player through this command. Alright, so we've got a link to the player, and our fixed update then, what we're going to do is we're going to figure out which direction to move. So figure out which way to move to approach the player. Again, so what we do is we take where we want to be and we subtract where we currently are to get that number. And we're going to store that in our direction, because direction is going to be which way we want to move. So we're going to say direction equals, and then we're going to say player dot position. Player is a transform variable, so from the transform has a position, I can do that. And then I'm going to subtract from that the transform dot position of this object. So if I just say transform dot position, that's going to get the transform of my alien and get his XYZ position as well. So we're going to do that. Okay, we're going to get that direction, and then we're going to want to normalize this so that we have all of the vectors add up to a 1, because we're going to take this times our speed, so we have some control here. If we don't normalize it, we're going to have different lengths of vectors in here, which is going to cause our speed to the farther away we are, the faster we're going to move towards our player. So what we're going to want to do then is we're going to say we're going to do all this. And then we're going to say dot normalized. This will return this vector with a magnitude of 1. Okay, so we're going to say dot normalized. That will take care of making sure that we always have the direction we want to move without a distance maybe associated with it, if that makes any sense. Okay, so now that we've figured out which way we want to move, we've got our direction, we want to move. Right, so we're going to go RB dot move position, and we have to give it the position we want to move to. So we're going to say RB dot position. We're going to get the current position of our rigid body. We're going to add to that our direction, so that it'll say take where we are, add that vector to it, which will move us in the right direction. We're going to take that times our speed, and we're also going to take this times our time dot fixed delta time. We've done time dot time before, or time dot delta time. This is going to be time dot fixed delta time. This is going to take whatever that fixed interval of time that passes each time we do a fixed update and chop our speed up. So we'll actually move over a whole second's worth of fixed update cycles. Okay, so that just kind of helps us even our speed out a little bit more. And that way, if for some reason one computer is running a different fixed update time cycle than this one, it should even it out so that they're the same. Alright, so that should cause us to move towards the player. So now all we have to do is go test this out. We'll go out here to Unity, and I've got a slight error here. Oh, okay, so this error says that I can't take a transform and assign it a game object. This returns a game object. I'm trying to assign it to a transform. So what I forgot to do was after player head just put a dot transform. Okay, so basically I'm saying go find the player, the thing with the tag player, the game object, and what I really want is to transform. So if I do that and go back into Unity here, that should clear out of my console here. There it goes. Alright, so let's go to our alien here. Now I've exposed direction here so we can see it. Rigid body, we've got to fill that in, so let's grab the rigid body here of our spaceship and drop them in there. Player will fill in with the code with that game object.find with tag. Speed, let's start him off slow, like maybe let's see what a speed of 1 looks like, and then we can watch the direction change here as we go through. Let's go in here and move our spaceship a little further away here to see what happens. Let's hit play and see if he moves towards us. Alright, so you notice that he is moving towards us. As I change where I am, you notice that the spaceship is also changing direction to follow me. So, you notice he doesn't change speed at all. He's actually bumping into me and pushing me there. That asteroid will bump in and push him here in a second. And when I wrapped around, he got my new position and started following me. So, he's following me around the screen. This is probably a good speed actually for him to be right now. We might even make him a little slower. That's something we can play out later. But he is chasing after me. I can, get around him pretty easily. I can shoot at him. And then I ran into an asteroid. Okay, so we've got him moving in our direction and we've got him chasing us. Alright, so that wasn't actually very many commands to do that, was it? This is a good place to end this video with our alien moving and tracking us. In the next video we will look at how to make the alien shoot towards wherever the player is. And that'll be the next mechanic that we add in. So as always, thanks for watching. I hope you've been enjoying the series and finding it interesting and useful. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. I'd be happy to look at those and get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.